Cool. So, who am I? My name is Jameyel Johnson. I go by Jay. In tech, had a long career, I guess. I started working at CSX about 11 years ago, which is a transportation company, before moving to Austin to work for Everlywell. So started as a .NET developer, and did that for about 4 years, moved into systems administration, became the senior sysadmin there, did everything from configuring servers to writing scripts. And it was cool because at that time, the iOS SDK was like coming out, like becoming big. If I'm dating myself, it's on purpose. And I wrote an app to like do some of my job from my phone, so that was cool. Then became the UX architect there at CSX, created a design system using Angular at the time, which was the best option for us because Angular 2 had just come out and it was awesome. And then we had to create like this design language for about 350 internal applications, which is way too many, to be completely honest. But it was a great project. I got to work with some awesome designers on that. And then I moved out to Austin, Texas, to work for a company that I'm at now called Everlywell. And I'll explain a little bit more about Everlywell in a second. But I'm a senior front-end engineer there and writing a lot of JavaScript code. We are a React shop, and so have built a design language system there, and also team lead. Been that several times in my career. So on top of that, on the musical side, I go by J Dash. I had a hit single called The WAP, which recently went double platinum, sold about 2 million records. I'm a national advocate for arts and education, so I travel with the NAM organization to Washington, D.C. every year to speak with your congressmen and senators, wherever you may be, about the full funding of ESSA and Title IV. Big advocate for music and education. I'm a music producer, and I do a lot of music licensing for TV and film. So work with everybody from Fox to ABC, MTV, CW, Revolt, yada, yada, yada. Most recently, I did the theme song for the San Antonio Spurs this season. Sadly, the season was cut short for reasons we are all familiar with. I'm also a songwriter and a composer, so write songs with artists. And I scored a film called 83 Days, which was nominated for 15 awards and won 10 of them, one of which was Best Score. So that is me in a nutshell. Now, honestly, this talk probably would have been about music and tech, to be completely honest, but then COVID-19, right? And it's awesome to be involved in, at Everlywell because we had the opportunity to be on the forefront of that. So we'll talk a little bit about Everlywell and a few things to know about it. Everlywell has a mission to make at-home health testing simple and affordable for everyone. And historically, we've sold things like food sensitivity tests, HbA1c, if you're monitoring chronic conditions, sexual health tests, etc. And then we had this unique opportunity with COVID-19. But like many startups, what you do to kind of get the product to market, you make certain decisions. But you have all of this architecture that you kind of squeeze in to accomplish something, right? And then you have the issue when the idea takes hold of having to scale that, right? And actually building an architecture to scale. And so we had everything from headless CMS to slim HTML, for those who are familiar with that, CoffeeScript, CSS, and Sass, ERBs, React, style components, and everything else, a lot of other libraries for marketing and everything else that you could think of. So like a lot of companies, we had all of those things. And usually when that happens, it's like, how do you become more agile? How do you actually move at the speed at which a startup needs to move as you start collecting all of this architecture? So really quick disclaimer, I cannot show our internal source code, but as we go through this, we're gonna recreate some stuff, which will be fun. Cool. So real quick, we're gonna go do a little time traveling. So on Monday, the 16th of March, we were told that by Friday, we needed an augmented direct-to-consumer platform that would sell all Americans one test per household every 5 days but only in 47 states, and only if the user passed the CDC criteria, which was a lot, right? I mean, it's kind of a lot to kind of take in, and everything that goes along with that. And on top of all of that, we had a goal to make sure that we sold these tests. This is the COVID-19 test I'm referring to, at no profit to us. So we didn't want to make any money off of the test, but it actually cost money to build these tests. And so you may ask, well, I heard that these tests are supposed to be free, right? Like the government said that we should have these tests for free. True. Yes, the government said, yeah, we're going to sign something in the law that said these tests are supposed to be free to everyone. But they didn't tell anyone how to actually access that money to pay for these tests. So the goal of this was to make sure we had tests that were going out to market really quickly. And so we're providing the tests at cost until we figure out how to actually get the funds to pay for them. So how did we do that? We worked. I mean, we did everything from updating a homepage, creating a completely new product page for this test. We had to create a new FAQ, create an intake quiz that basically embodied all of the CDC criteria, create a new custom email collection process, new email flows, new marketing flows to make sure that you didn't get spam for stuff or something that was something as serious as this, a new and custom checkout process. And it was a huge endeavor because keep in mind, we were given this on Monday, told we had to have this by Friday. But guess what? We did it. And on Friday, March 20th, I mean, it was like the best celebration ever. Not to mention on top of all this, we all had started working from home, right? Like it was a new thing for us because we're normally in the office, but we got it accomplished. Presentation over. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Well, actually on Saturday, on the 21st, we found out we couldn't use any of it. And by the way, we still had a launch date of Monday, the 23rd. So after all of that, in 2 days, we needed to provide a completely different experience so healthcare providers could buy in bulk. We had to inform users that these tests were not available for individual purchase, collect emails from that existing product page, and create a way for the homeless population to get tested. Now you may ask, well, why couldn't you use any of it? Like, why did that happen? The short answer is that, we were following guidance, updated guidance from the White House COVID Task Force, the FDA, the CDC, and we were listening to the customers about the cohorts that needed it the most. So we made the decision to allocate our tests to qualifying organizations who could distribute the testing to priority populations, such as frontline healthcare workers, the doctors and nurses actually treating this, different nursing homes, long-term care facilities, as well as the homeless population of the city of LA and city of Honolulu. And actually working with those cities, we weren't just providing it to the homeless population, we actually providing it to the population of the city at large, but we did have to figure out how do you create tests and give results to a population that may or may not have an email address or physical address or a phone number, right? And so those are a lot of interesting problems to solve. So all that being said, how do we do it? Short answer is a well-formed design language system. Those of you, a lot of you may be familiar with it and may have them at the companies that you're working at now. If they don't, a design language system is comprised of mainly three things: a design language, a component library, and a style guide that all work together and allow us to design and develop applications at scale, right? It really just makes it easier for us as devs to build things and work with designers. It's also like a contract between devs and designers, so that any change that needs to be made, it's really like well thought of and an explicit change. So let's build one. Cool. So some of the definitions, just to kind of set a baseline of a design system. The design language part of it, is a set of company level design standards used to create the products that establish the brand. The component library is usually what us devs think of as the suite of reusable components that are the building blocks for the applications that implement the design system. And then you have a style guide on top of that, that's the documentation for the design system. and the component library. I'm going to take a quick pause because for whatever reason, the chat window disappeared. I'm going to make sure that I can see all of that. Cool. Awesome. Perfect. So some things that we have to keep in mind are accessibility, the ease of use of the design system, the responsiveness, as well as the flexibility of the components that make up that system. So and we're going to start actually building one. We're going to start with create React app, with a lot of you may be familiar with. We're going to create our app. We're going to call it alibi. There we go. And we're going to create it with a TypeScript template. First thing we're going to do when we get inside is we're going to clear out the boilerplate completely. And we are going to create an initial component, and it's going to be a button. Sweet. Everybody with me so far? Good deal. I like all of these Zoom virtual backgrounds you guys have as well. These are awesome. All right. So step 3, we're going to create the best component ever. Now, I've taken care of a lot of that in advance, but why are there these squiggles here now? Anybody in the chat want to take a guess? Like, this is a brand new component. I built it from scratch. It's the best component ever, but I have some squiggles. Well, what those are TypeScript errors. So we are going to take some time to demystify building a DLS, basically using the tsconfig. And I know a lot of developers have used this a lot, but I know me personally, I didn't know all of the capabilities of the tsconfig file and how powerful it was. And so my goal is to make sure that the process of actually building this thing becomes easier for those that may want to build a DLS and actually show the benefits of it. So we're going to walk through kind of each of these, which looking at them at a glance can kind of be like, I've used them before, but I don't know exactly what they do, but we're going to fix that. That first squiggle we saw, we're about to take care of it right now. There is a property here called JSX, and that controls how the JSX constructs are emitted in JavaScript files. It only affects the output of the JS files that started in TSX files. So they're the equivalent of like the react.createElement calls. But once you turn that on, you'll see that that first squiggle down there, that button wrapper down at the bottom went away. But now we have a new one on our import statement. So the second thing we're going to do is allow synthetic default imports. And when set to true, that allows you to write an import like import React from React instead of import star as React from React, which can become relatively annoying, having to do that for every external library. So actually turning that on gets rid of that squiggly line, right? Gets rid of that error for us. So what happens if I now compile this running the TypeScript compiler, just running TSC? I want you to pay attention to the bottom screen there. You'll see once we run TSC, if you look on the very left in the directory structure, in the button directory, you'll see a file pop up there, which was the index.js file. In here, you'll see there's a lot of like stuff that we did not write. This is the TypeScript compiler actually taking our TSX file and compiling that into JavaScript for us, right? But we're creating a library, and we want this library to be reusable. We can't have it inside of our source code, right? We have to have it in another directory that we can then take that directory and kind of package it up some kind of way and deliver it to the people, right? So that's where outdir comes into play. So if specified, all of the .js files .js files as well as .d.ts, which are the TypeScript declaration files, as well as the source maps will be emitted into that directory. And so that way the directory structure of the original source files are preserved. It's exactly what we want to happen. I wrote a quick little script basically to remove that lib file and just run the TSC file every time you run build. And so now you'll see that we have a lib directory that's being created with that file. So we're done, right? That's it. But where are the rest of the files? Like, I want to make this like a really robust library. I'm going to have a bunch of stuff. I can't just have this index.js file. It's not really telling me anything else about the library, or not really separating things and keeping them organized for me. Not to mention, I don't know what half the code in here means. So where are the rest of the files? We're going to walk through 3 different properties here: allow.js, source map, and declaration. Allow.js allows the JavaScript files inside of your projects that are imported to be used. So instead of just like .ts and .tsx files, you can import files that are JavaScript files, and they will automatically be included in your library. So now all of the, if we made the decision to use JS files instead of TypeScript files for our styled components, that will automatically be included. We don't have to do anything special for that. Just setting that equal to true will allow us to include that in the project. The declaration file actually generates those .d.ts files for every .ts, .tsx, or JavaScript file in the project. These files become immensely important when it's time to like debug stuff and also define things with TypeScript. They describe the external API of the module, which can provide IntelliSense and accurate types for untyped code. And you may see this when we actually write our consuming application. So what that means is I've written this library and I publish it, but when I actually consume that library, I can see different properties about each component. So it'll say, when you hover over the component, oh, this is a button and it has these properties. So it just becomes really helpful and a great developer experience. The source map. Is anybody by show of virtual hands familiar with what source maps do? It's like a mixed thing. So source maps are awesome in that when you have these TypeScript files, like it's easy to work with them locally, but once you compile them into this optimal level of JavaScript and deploy that, what happens if you have an issue in the consuming application side? Like what happens if somebody's running it and they discover a bug in your system? What does that stack trace look like, right? If you don't have a source map, it looks like just compiled gobbledygook, right? You're not going to be able to develop any insights on what you wrote as source code based on that. So a source map is really awesome in that it generates this file, which allows debuggers and other tools to display the original TypeScript source code. What that means is if I have an error in the consuming application in the browser, which hopefully you never do, but that stack trace would say, here's the .tsx file that this error happened in, and here's the exact line, right? Even though that TypeScript file is not included in your compiled library, which is awesome. Another thing, since we're gonna have, a bunch of components, we don't wanna have to import from each individual location. So we're just gonna set up one place at the root of the project in our index.ts file. So basically we can just export everything from one place and import everything from one place. So this is just a little step that we're doing to kind of clean up the code. So that way on the other end, we don't have to say import button from alibi/button. We can import it from the root. Cool. Next thing we're going to talk about, make sure that still works. Hold on. There it is. There's our index that's actually importing and exporting all of the things in our compiled library now. Sweet. Now we're going to talk about modules. So we added 3 different things here. We had the module, target, and the lib. And I'm going to let this thing play a couple of times and kind of talk about what it is. So we're starting out with ES6 modules. And when we're talking about modules, you'll see that something blew up here. Let's talk about that. Because we don't have our module resolution set to node, it's actually trying to figure out where to look for these files and can't find them. So once we set it to node, which is basically saying use the node-based or Node.js version of how we find files, it can look in the node modules as well as your directory structure, and it just makes it easier to find the files. The actual module that we're starting with is ES6. And so when you look at the imports and exports in our compiled code, it doesn't necessarily say require, it'll say import export, not module.exports and require statements. And the target that we're compiling it down to is ES5 because that's what we know works in every browser, right? The lib property actually gives us the ability to use all of the functions available in each of these iterations of JavaScript. So ES5, ES6. So in ES6, you might have access to promises, and then maybe in ES7, you have you have promise.finally, and you have different things that are exposed in different iterations of JavaScript. But why wouldn't we just include all of them? Well, maybe you're not building for a browser, right? So you wouldn't necessarily need the DOM library. So it gives you the ability to encode while you're developing things, access each library, right, of JavaScript and use what you need. And then all of that gets compiled down into that target, which is ES5. Does that make sense? Cool. Next thing is one of those things where I have to tell people to be careful with. Those relative imports, we hate them. We want the .. / to go away, right? So you can define what's called the base URL. And that will just say, hey, my base URL is source. So, anything I declare after that that can't be found in node modules or directly in the directory structure, look in source first, and then it will branch out from there, which that works locally, but that doesn't always work when you compile it into your library. Reason being is because you may not call your library when you export it. It may not be lib, or the base may not be source, right? Like the base changes depending on where you're putting it and how that directory structure is. So I just say be careful when using that because, you can get in trouble in your, once you've exported that. Just something to keep in mind. Cool. Next step, we have created this component. We think it works. We're going to publish it, right? So we create this package.json file within the lib directory, and then we run, locally, we're going to run what's called yarn link. Now, or npm link is also the alternative if you are, still in the npm camp. Does anybody know what that does? Anybody want to put a message in the chat of what actually happens when you do a link and why it's important? 10 seconds. 3, nobody? All right, fine. What npm and yarn link are doing in the background is they're actually creating a symlink, and it's letting your global config of npm or yarn know that this package that you're exporting exists, and it exists almost as an npm package that you can pull into other projects. Why that's important when you're building a design language system or a DLS or a UI component library is that you can create this consuming application and pull in your library as if you're pulling it from npm, right? Which is what you want. You want to make sure that it kind of works like you think it will once you deploy it. So yarn link is super helpful in that respect. So all we did is now, if you look at the message returned in the console, it says you can now run yarn link alibi in the projects where you want to use this package. So the next step for us then would be to create a consuming application, right? So we're just going to create another app using create react app. We're going to call this one consumer IME or crime, right? Because you can't have crime without an alibi. Funny. All right, here we go. Creating that, and we are going to consume our library from this new app. Cool. So we're jumping into this project that we just created, and we're just going to run a yarn link alibi. As you can see in the node modules now, you actually have all of the files that you had exported using the TypeScript compiler. And we're just going to import our button from alibi and then replace the default boilerplate thing with our button. Now, hopefully, if we did everything correctly, we'll run it. And there it is. There's our button. We created that button in another repo. Using the TypeScript compiler, we created the declaration files, the source maps, as well as the ES5 JavaScript. We exported that, packaged it up, published it. We only published it locally. We didn't actually publish it to NPM. That's another talk for another day. But we published it and then created another application that was not related at all and consumed our component. So hopefully this opens some of the possibilities to you of how to do it and how to create more components after that. So that's it, we did it. We created a set of reusable components and used them at Everlywell to quickly design and implement a solution that brought insights to thousands of people in the country. If you look inside that laptop, you'll see like what a sample result of a COVID test might look like. And on top of that, to top it all off, we didn't drop any other projects. So simultaneously, from getting all of those requirements, having to recreate several different flows twice in 1 week, we also released an indoor and outdoor allergy test. Our enterprise team hit all of their deadlines, and we made progress on another in-flight initiative. So you may say, and I know the government reported like we have thousands of engineers working on this, and I know that there may be companies that are also working on COVID testing that have a lot of engineers. And so you may think, well, you guys did all that in that short of a period of time. You have to have like what, 100 developers, like 50 developers? No, we have 9 devs at Everlywell. So I just want to take the moment to give a shout out to the incredible team that I have a chance to work with at Everlywell, and also the great design system that we use to basically become more agile as we build out new things. Cool, what's awesome is that we're also open sourcing our design system. I'm going to leave in the chat the link that's on my last slide, but we have a design system called Leaves that's not yet public. So you can't find it yet, but we are in the process of we're going to package it up and we're going to release it to the public. Hopefully it helps you guys, but also hope that we demystified some of the process of creating a design language if you wanted to start creating one for yourself today. Cool. That being said, I'd like to thank you guys. Make sure you follow me on LinkedIn, Jameyel Johnson. Follow me on Twitter, The Real J Dash, or GitHub as StatCash. This is the link at the bottom for kind of signing up to get updates on the Leaves design system. I really hope you signed up because this is not like a spammy thing. This is purely for the purpose of pushing out updates to our design system. But I'm also going to leave this link in the chat as well as any contact information. So that being said, I said a lot. Do you guys have any questions? Sweet, thanks. Awesome. With that being said, I'm gonna turn it back over to Pete. I'll hang around for a couple minutes if you guys wanted to chat.
Yeah. So thank you guys. You hear me?
Yeah, we have one question. Does this work just as well for React Native? So funny you asked that. We actually had our first React Native meeting yesterday. So we are talking about the React Native side of this. It's something that we're looking into. Not yet, but obviously with any open source project, you start with something and you iterate. So that's the goal. Did we run into any downsides of using TypeScript? No, to be completely honest. You want to know something that I thought was going to be like super awesome and helpful in the beginning that wasn't as much, because we were doing everything from using normalizer to like normalizing all of our JSON into flat files and stuff like that. TypeScript was awesome because it helped us like reuse and share types and to verify before we push something out that it was going to work. But basically using the immutable library actually didn't work out as well as we thought it would. And I know that you didn't ask about immutable at all, but just kind of piggybacking on what worked well and what didn't. the immutable library actually added layers of complexity to our state management that we honestly didn't need. And so TypeScript took care of a lot of stuff for us. And I know that immutable takes care of a different problem, but it actually added several layers of complexity. So just some insight there. No downsides to TypeScript though. We love it a lot. Thanks for that question. Other questions? I have a question. Who right now, I guess just by putting +1s in the chat, already has a design system where they're working? And who does not? +1, -1. Huh. Sweet. I'd love to get, if you guys want to hit me up after, for those that do have DLSs, if there's things that you found that you thought was awesome in what you guys did, love to share ideas on that stuff. The open source design system template will be good for any JavaScript based platform. But yeah, it's compiling down to ES5. So we've actually run into an exercise where we had this TypeScript based thing, and we pulled it into a library that was Ruby on Rails. So we were able to reuse our components there, which was awesome because it's just JavaScript, right? So as long as you create the right wrapper for the component, no pun intended on the music thing, you can, it'll work. Sorry, I think I had missed a question. Oh, you apologize. Oh, Ryan asked, what was the timeline you had to develop this? We had a week. We had 1 week. And not to mention, like, to kind of piggyback on the complexities of developing a test for the homeless population, I don't think like people realize how difficult it was, but we have an awesome team. And so like being able to come up with a way for people that don't have phones or email addresses, like how do you deliver results in a platform that is purely based online, right? And so we partnered with several awesome organizations that basically took care of the testing for that population. And then we deliver results via like dashboards to them, like how many people may have tested positive, and they can dig into their specific location and figure out who it was, and they have a way to communicate with them. So it was kind of a piecemeal thing, but it's working out. So for those of you that don't have a DLS where you are, +1, -1, do you feel like this presentation helped get you closer to being like, we can do this? And if not, I would love to, please send me any kind of information that would make it better. I'm getting no responses, so I'm guessing that means do no harm. Hopefully it worked. What's between +1 and -1?
Nice, Duncan.
0. I'll go with 0. Awesome. Sweet.
Now, thank you to every, obviously, thank you, Jay, for that presentation, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks to everybody for attending another one of these sessions. As always, we're going to do these every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Our next one is obviously next Wednesday, and that topic is on ASP.NET Core, and that's with Jeff Strauss. So a very well-known speaker. So thanks again thank you, Jay, for attending this, man. I really appreciate it. Look forward to catching up with you soon. Next time I'm in Austin. It'll be a while, but obviously we'll hang out when I'm there. And again, thanks for everybody. And I'm actually seeing some chats. They want to do the music talk, so let's set that one up soon, Jay. I would like to attend that one too. So, All right. Well, thank you to everybody, and I'll kind of keep this room open for a little bit. If you guys have any other questions, Jay's going to be here for a little bit longer, but we've got the room till 2:30. So, but again, thanks to everybody who attended it, and hope to see you guys soon.
Sweet. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, and hey, we did get a question. This is obviously recorded, so this will be put up on the YouTube channel as well as our blog. And then also they're asking to share the slides. Are you cool with that, Jay? Do you want to just put that out on, maybe we can do it in chat, or?
Yeah, I'll follow up with you on the best way to distribute this, but I'll kind of help package this up and work with you on it.
Cool. And yeah, so the YouTube channel, that will be, to just answer that question on chat, we'll be pushing that out soon. So once this is all recorded and edited, we'll definitely let you guys know. And I'll probably put it on the meetup page.
Thanks. Appreciate the presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Gaines. Great seeing you, man.
You too.
Hopefully I'll see you soon, and next time I'm in Nashville too. So
yeah,
appreciate it. And
I shot Jay a link and invite. Interested in talking about Music City Tech 2020.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and then there goes Jay's emails up on chat, so everybody can connect with him.
Awesome.
All right. Well, cool, man. Well, yeah, things are starting to bounce out, man. But dude, I really appreciate that, Jay. That's awesome.
No problem, man. It's fun. Also, if React Rally is still happening in Salt Lake in August, I will be speaking there, if that is still happening. So if you should find yourself out in Salt Lake City in August or want to attend React Rally and they're still doing it, it'll probably be virtual. Who knows? We're still figuring that out, but
so they haven't canceled it yet. They're just kind of keeping it out there for now.
Right, as of now. I know they just did like a React Summit that was, kind of broadcasted. They made everything virtual.
Right. Yeah, there's another conference that I don't know if anyone's on it from there, but there's another conference in Atlanta called Refactor, and I think they postponed till August to kind of keep it. And they were going to have it in April, but they moved it back to August. So as of right now, I think it's still on. But yeah, I mean, I think things should open back up, but who knows? It's kind of tough because we were all thinking the same thing. And Gaines, I don't know if he's still on there, he might have already bounced out, but we were, a lot of us were trying to figure out if we postponed to the fourth quarter, right, for any of these events, Code the Beach or Music Tech or wherever. And we just felt that it was going to just inundate all the conferences being pushed back. Like it just wouldn't make a lot of sense. So, the fourth quarter would have hundreds of conferences, right? Mm-hmm. As opposed to, hey, let's just go and push everything back to, 2021.
Yeah.
How's Austin in general? Like, how's the city responding? I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine that lives in downtown, and it's a ghost town. Are you guys like, hey, dude, I know you're north of town, but
yeah.
Do you ever go down there? I mean, what's Rainy Street like? Nothing? Is it just?
it's the apocalypse out here, man. I call it the end of days of pants.
It's like I Am Legend, right?
Right. I don't know. I see my guy Weatherman on here. What's up, man? How do you feel like Austin's been?
I think they've handled it pretty good. I mean, I think the number of cases are low and, all that sort of thing. I mean, it seems like, thankfully we're a tech town maybe mostly, and everybody can just work from home and all that. But yeah, I don't know. It seems like it's been okay. I haven't been outside really too much, so.
It's par for the course for me. It's like I can't even tell. It's like I'm usually in the house anyway.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I was in Austin. I think Jay, you and I were gonna try to sync up, but I was there, I think, in February, February or early March. But yeah, our office is north of town. So, and we were in an industrious space, but we moved out of that space, obviously. Oh no, we were industrious downtown, and then we moved to a WeWork, but now we're completely out of both. But yeah, it's interesting. I always kind of wonder what downtown Austin's like right now.
Yeah, I know we have people from like all over the country on here. I'm seeing. So I have a guy from like the DC, Alexandria area. Alex is on here, and you know, so it's cool to see everybody. But make sure that you check out Code on the Beach. We got Florida here.
Yeah,
some people from my old company at CSX on here. Yeah, definitely check out Code on the Beach if you haven't yet. It's awesome.
I appreciate that. It'll be back in July 2021. So that's when we're doing it. So, and we're going to go back to One Ocean, which is where we've done it before. So, you know, that's where you had a chance to attend it. But yeah, we unfortunately had to postpone this year, but for the best. But yeah, we'll be back, just like what Gaines was talking about earlier with his conference that he runs, Music City Tech up in Nashville. We'll come back stronger and better. You know, it's the whole plan.
Cool.
But I appreciate you saying that, Jay. I'll have you down, man.
Yes,
Love to have you come and do this talk. So, and we'll get you scheduled for the music talk. It sounds like you got some interest on that one. So,
yeah, I love talking about tech and music, man. So,
heck yeah, now they go hand in hand for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. We'll kind of bounce out of this one, but you know, Jay, I'll follow up with you, and we'll just kind of get this recording out for everybody, and you know, hopefully see everybody soon.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks. See ya.
Peace.